Okay, I'm gonna be very bad, but it made me think about Berghain, and I would say cocaine. That's awful. And I would say cocaine. That's awful. And I would say cocaine. That's awful. What I don't like about Berlin is rules. I like your gentle ageism here. Well, let's talk about the successful women, because there is this patriarchy element here. Everything I'm saying is always valid for everyone, but even more for women. We tend to think that hard work will deliver good results and that people will see our hard work. Big fat lie. It's not true. I really believe a lot in the future of mobility, and I don't believe necessarily that Berlin needs to attract big companies in order to be successful. I think it's more, how do we create these very vibrant networks? What is your current favorite minority?
By your description, the new Messiah will be black, gay, and a wheelchair. Right?
Yeah.
It's like...
And I strongly believe that our world would be a better place if everyone could shine their own talent. And for this, you need to have people who are opening doors for you. So helping you identify which door to open and helping you network and get those doors open. And this is what I'm trying to do on my spare time.
Hello one and all, welcome to Unboxing. I'm your host, the Machine.
And I'm Iva Jankovic.
Today with our special guest, we're gonna be unboxing the future of Berlin. The city has grown vast and fast in the latest years, which leave us with an open question. What vision does Berlin wants to give itself in order to remain a livable and thriving city?
And our guest to help us do that is an expat that moved to Berlin for an opportunity in the peak of her career. Now in e-commerce, she's known as a legend, and for the right reasons. She has spearheaded and unlocked the power of online for many lifestyle and fashion brands. Currently, she holds the role within the board of advisors for numerous companies. But more importantly, she's an amazing role model to many, particularly women, paving the road for us to take senior director and board positions. She's known for her candid reflections and a very strong voice, a fighter for diversity, equality, and inclusivity, mother of four, betahaus member, Delphine Mousseau. Welcome.
Welcome,
Thank you for having me. Thank you. You gave me goosebumps. This is really
You
me.
deserve it.
That's Iva's specialty.
No, it's really heartwarming that actually you balance out my work, paid work, which is great, but also what I really want to stand for. And diversity, equity, and inclusion is something really dear to my heart. And this is what gave me goosebumps, is that, the work is seen, and it's a work that you do underground. So it's nice that
and we're going to dive into that
results.
in today's episode.
Amazing, Delphine. So we always ask our guests to bring an object that represents them as a person or as a profession, or both of them. So what did you bring to us? And I'd like you to describe it visually, so for the people who is only listening, they can have an idea of which object did you bring.
So I brought a metal object, which is roughly 20 centimeter long. It's like a bar in metal, and on the right you've got a round circle with some three bits shining out. And this is a tool, actually there is number on it, and there is different shapes that allows anyone to open any doors.
Ooh.
Of course, not doors that are locked for a reason of safety, but doors that actually do not have a handle anymore. Doors that used to be open or are made to be open, but are very difficult to open. So typically in a building where there is construction, you would use this kind of key, or for a technical door.
It's amazing. And for the listeners, it looks like a super fancy and gigantic bottle opener.
Yes.
It can also be a murder weapon.
It could.
No doubts of it.
Yeah, so I brought this because I see myself as having the talent to help people reflect on who they are as a person and how they can shine in their ecosystem, in their environment, or for companies, group of people, how they can really shine in their ecosystem. I really strongly believe that everyone has a talent, but it's not so easy to recognize our own talent because sometimes people have been having very bad words on who we are and boxing us in a way that we don't connect anymore with this talent. Mm-hmm. And once you have identified this talent, is knowing how this talent can be valued in the world. And I strongly believe that our world would be a better place if everyone could shine their own talent. And for this, you need to have people who are opening doors for you. So helping you identify which door to open and helping you network and get those doors open. And this is what I'm trying to do on my spare time.
Amazing. Congratulations. Can you make a sound with it?
Sure.
Nice. So there's something I really love about music is how to play music, to make music live. It demands us to be present in the moment. It's something that I really love, and I really connect both things. No, it's something that we talked a lot. It's been talking a lot later, no? Like to be present in the moment. There's all this kind of meditations and dynamics to do that, and I really connect that with playing music live. And that's what we're gonna do now. I'm gonna build a beat here using the sounds of objects, body, and voice. And then you're gonna join me with your object and Iva with hers.
Great.
There's only one rule in this game is we need to end together. You need to be a consensus. You cannot give up on the middle, like halfway. We need to all finish together.
Great, I'm in.
Excited.
Okay, so let me start. Put the headphones. Nice, keep going.
Okay, I'm going to be very bad, but it made me think about Berghain, and I would say cocaine. That's awful. And I would say cocaine. That's awful. And I would say cocaine. That's awful. And I would say cocaine. That's awful.
That's the attitude.
Oh, I love it. Well, I get we get right into the topic.
Delphine, you're originally from France. You lived in Netherlands for a long time. You also lived a little bit in South Germany, but then you came to Berlin. Can you tell our audience what brought you to Berlin?
Yeah, so my arrival in Berlin was meant to be, but was a real crash. So I've been starting my career in e-commerce and wanted to go abroad because I thought it was better for our family at that time. So the first decision of expatriation was to get a better life in terms of quality of life. And then, of course, when you're moving abroad, you have to decide who is going to take the lead in the career, because it's difficult to have two careers. And somehow we managed for some time. In Amsterdam, I had a really interesting job. But then my ex-husband was working for Adidas, so we decided to move to the south of Germany, Herzogenaurach, which is difficult. I think for anyone going in a small city in a country not speaking the language is a challenge. What was not really planned is that our marriage broke up. So we ended up separating in Erlangen. I stayed the rest of the school year for the kids to settle. And my plan was to go back to Amsterdam because I still had a lot of friends there, and going back to France was really complicated with kids being in the international system. And I got a phone call from Zalando on the 1st of April, and I said to the headhunter, internal headhunter, Isabel Scheiber, thank you again so much, Isabel, I cannot do this. I just cannot do this. So she insisted. So a month later, I talked to Robert, one of the founder, and he was super gentle in the interview, very, very nice, asked me that he wanted to have female experience in e-commerce and fashion, which I guess I was a bunch of us only in Europe. And I had an interview with him, and at the end of this interview, I discussed with my kids at the dinner table and said, hey, what about we go to Berlin instead of Amsterdam? And they still had a lot of friends in Amsterdam. So my oldest son, who was 12 at that time, said, if we go to Berlin, I'll commit suicide.
Gosh.
And my second son said, don't worry, I'll go to an orphanage.
Better option, but
so I felt it was really challenging, and then with this feedback from the kids, I thought, okay, this is too much. I cannot do this.
Where did they take this image from? Berlin?
It was not Berlin. It was about not going back to a safe place. I think it was not against Berlin. It was for Amsterdam. So actually, I wrote down, and I looked at the email many times afterwards, saying, none of us wants to have a failure. So thank you, but no, thank you. And then Isabel insisted and say, why don't you just come to Berlin and see us? Who says no to meet the super successful founder of a 2 billion company, at that time? So I came to Berlin, spent 4 hours with the founders, the HR, and some people who had the role that I was supposed to take over. And I completely fell in love with the team, with the ambition, the disruption, the willingness they had to really transform this ecosystem of fashion. And I said for 4 hours, I don't know how to put a square in a circle. I just don't know how to do it. I'd love to, but I can't. And then I went home, but I stopped at the airport, and I was thinking, I cannot do that. And when you have a real difficult question, what do? You do the call a friend. So I called my mom and said, Mom, this is really an opportunity I would love to take, but it feels like impossible. And she told me, my darling, when you want something, you manage it. And having someone who has your back and think big for you is so important. These close people who know you well and know you're going to not go into something too big. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. I still have goosebumps saying it. Yeah, because it was really a support that made a huge difference. So I went back and then called the movers and say, guys, we're moving in 3 weeks. We're still moving, but not to Amsterdam. And I basically unpacked everything that I had already packed. So I was abgemeldet, like the German administration. I was out of the system, so I had put myself back in the system. I had to deregister these kids from the Dutch school into the German school. I had to deregister from the Social Security, re-register in Social Security. It was a total headache, but totally worth it. And the landing was hard, but totally worth it. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity that Zalando gave me to actually move to a new city, restart my life, recover my professional dynamism, being in my right place. And I think also a great opportunity for my kids to expand and discover something. But we'll talk about Berlin because I think it was...
We're going to get there. But I want to ask, so the moment that Zalando brought you just for that interview or that getting to know each other to Berlin, was that the first time you came to Berlin or do you have a prior experience?
I had come to Berlin once.
Okay.
But only on a weekend visit from the south of Germany.
So what was your impression back then?
No, actually, I come twice. No, that's not true. I come for the food goal in 2006, where I was pregnant. So I had been basically going from Reichstag to Stadtmitte. That's it. And then the second time I came, it was with the small kids. So we had been just around seeing the communication museum with these little robots talking to each other, and going to Grunewald, having a nice, breakfast in the. So showing already this kind of mix of city and countryside a bit. But it was very minimal what I had known about Berlin.
And did you like it? What did you think about the city? Did something struck you? Did something surprise you? Did something...
So actually, dear in my heart, I knew that what was happening in digital was happening in Berlin.
Okay.
So actually, I was attracted to something I didn't know, but I had a good idea of.
Okay.
So I wanted to be in these vibes of creativity and dynamic, this whole rocket internet and all these vibes of the tech scene. So I didn't touch it, I didn't feel it, but I knew it was there. And this is what really attracted me in the first place.
Okay, lovely.
And how long have you been living in Berlin?
So since 2014, July 14.
And tell us one thing you don't like about Berlin.
What I don't like about Berlin is rules. I don't mind about rules, but I feel that a lot of people here are following rules for the sake of following rules. So I think it's everywhere in Germany, but in Berlin, because it's so open in many things, you're just like, why are you still doing this? So for instance, I was crossing Kantstraße every morning going to work, and there's not a lot of cars when you're crossing at 7:30, 7:45, and still people are waiting for the green lights. And then you're looking, the car is really far, so you cross. And then you see people on the other side looking at you like, why is she doing that? It's not your choice. Oh, she's smart. Oh, I should do the same. But of course they're crossing from the other side, so the cars are not coming in the same way. And then they see the car coming, they move back, and in their head you can feel that they're saying, see, I was right. I should wait for the green light. And this is what drives me nuts in the first place. The second one is cars accelerating to you when you're crossing at the red light to show you that you're wrong and creating situation of accident. I had several of those. And I'm just, guys, why don't you work with your environment? Think. Don't only listen to the rules. But that's my French thing. We always bend the rules. Sometimes it's for good, sometimes it's for bad.
It's surprising that you say that as an European, because I always thought that, but I'm from South America. So it's easy to think like that from when you come from South America, where actually only when police is around, people respect this kind of things, right? Yeah. And what is one thing that you love about Berlin?
I love so many things about Berlin, but I think the most important that applies to many aspects of Berlin is the high and low. Berlin is really this mix of contrasts, and in the way people dress, in the way people act, in the soft, the hard, everything is available in Berlin. And I think this is this vibrance which is created by this tension of the opposition you can see in the city. And I like that. I like that when people are so themselves, that contrast can happen. And then, of course, in this tension, discussions, things can happen. That creates the vibrancy of Berlin.
I agree. That's also something that I really love about Berlin. And I would add, and I would like to know if you agree with that. Every time I describe Berlin, say what I love the most is like, it's very diverse, but you feel kind of somehow harmony in this diverse. Do you see harmony? Because you're talking about tension, no?
There is harmony. I think the risk of harmony is that, so the real harmony is when things are different, but they still go together. And typically for me, it's a landscape, a complex landscape, where you see actually all the colors are matching together. It's not always harmonious in Berlin. People live well together, they respect each other, but it's not always harmonious.
Yeah, if you take the literal sense of harmony, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not there.
So even the aesthetic of the building, you see, you have something that is completely disgraceful because it's been built later, or something that has been broken during the war and never rebuilt, and then suddenly you've got a hole. So I think it makes it very interesting and very charming, but it's like, a smile with teeth apart. It's charming, but it's not per se harmonious, So this kind of, there is something kind of weird everywhere you're looking at, and it makes you feel like you want to understand what's behind, what happened, how people are living with that, how they tolerate that, and I think it makes you grow.
Definitely true. I want to ask you something about your first months in Berlin. Now, you mentioned you're a mother of four. First of all, I think that deserves an applause of its own. You're a mother of four, and as you mentioned, your children weren't particularly excited about coming over here, not because of the city, but because of where they weren't going to. However, still, you mentioned you had to do a lot of registration, deregistration. You were coming from a German system, but still you already did kind of the Abmeldungs. So I want to ask you, how were your first months settling in and immediately starting a vice president role in Zalando?
So I think I had several moments of loneliness. I think the first one, which is still imprinted in my heart. So I was doing this move, and it was on Sunday, because the plan was to move on Monday in Amsterdam, but the movers needed to go back to do the way back from the Netherlands. So they said the only time you can move in is Sunday, which is quite uncommon in Germany. Everything was put in the apartment, and they said, yeah, we need to check the basement, can you come? So I took my key, that's it, went to the basement and then come up. And then I had not opened the door in the morning because my ex-husband had done it, so I'd never tried the key in the lock. And I'm trying the key in the lock and it doesn't open. And I'm here. The movers went away because the basement was finished. I was alone, I had no phone, no money. And I thought, who can I even call or ask? And I knew, actually, the founder of Zalando and the HR, and I didn't have that phone number, and it was Sunday. And this little moment where I played with the key and thought, I hope it's going to open, and then finally it opened, I was just like, okay, this is really restarting from scratch. It was really hard.
I guess that's the moment you wished you had your today's
Super
instrument
key.
with you, right?
Yes.
Open. Wow, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that and for truly being open. So my other question was actually, what was the hardest thing about moving to Berlin? I mean, you already mentioned a few things that were your challenges, and particularly perhaps is this feeling of loneliness, of arrival, or is there something else you would...
Yeah, I think for me, of course, it was a time of transition, and transitions are always difficult. So I think in times of transition, it's quite interesting because this is what my pastor was preaching last Sunday, so I've got plenty of ideas I've been reflecting upon, is how do you think about what is necessary for you? And when you're overwhelmed, you tend to be like a boat in a storm. You throw things aboard, and you might throw aboard things which are really vital to you. So in a time of stress, you know, are you throwing aboard your health? Are you throwing aboard your social relationship? You know, where do you put your priorities, and what do you consider is really essential to your life? And for me, because I was putting on, you know, managing a divorce, getting 4 kids settled in a country and starting a big job, there was not much space for myself. So I've been throwing aboard my health somehow. I didn't do one health check in 4 years. I didn't read a magazine, you know, in the sofa. And I did very limited social time. And I was really, really happy that actually I met some friends who really worked on building the relationship with me, because I really had very little. And I'm really grateful that people were around me to support me, because that was really, this is a risk, you know, you do too much for something that is, seems like to be the big prize. And for me, the big prize was recovering myself within the professional sphere, and then also putting my family financially safe, which did happen, so it was great, but how much do you pay for it? And, you know, how do you balance in that storm? And how are you not losing hope? I mean, I give an example, you know, when I come home, I had a lot of help, because I like to get organized with a lot of help, otherwise it's not achievable. But still, you know, there is this moment where something broke in the washing machine and there is water everywhere. And you're just like, it's 10:30 p.m., you still have emails to write, and then you're sponging and thinking, okay, how do I call now the guy's going to repair, or women repairing the machine? And you're just like, why? And you're just sitting on the floor and then start crying, oh, why my washing machine is broken? You know, there's this little moment where you say, okay, I don't have my reserve energy to be able to handle these little moments, and it's just stupidly harsh.
Clear.
I'd like to open a part here that related to being lonely. And, well, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't need. But I was wondering how it is to date. There was a moment for that. Is there a moment for that? How is that going? Because I arrived already in Berlin with a partner. So I never been in the market, as I always joke, like, are you in the market? But all my friends that are in the market, they always say, oh man, Berlin's not, it's easy to hang out with people, but it's very difficult to build a relationship, because everybody's kind of in a FOMO, like, I don't want to be here because there's so much out there. And of course, we live in an era that still there's this whole thing about the age, and, you know, like, even though you look amazing, young,
of course.
Isn't it? So it's like, how is that navigating that, you know, like, and mainly at your stage of yours, this stage of your life, no? Because I think it's already difficult in Berlin, and at your stage, like, what is your vision like?
I like your gentle ageism here. So there is 3 elements.
Oh, but it's not mine.
No.
It's not
it's
mine.
ageism of the world.
It's unfortunate something that is out there.
I'm going to give you some answers on this. So first, I think relationships are difficult. I think relationship is what. There is no fire without warmth. There is no warmth without fire. Sorry of this. So you need to have friction, and relationships are difficult. They're, I think, the essence of life, but they're difficult. And I think one element is a lot of people go into dating without having properly ended their previous relationship, so they bring in the new relationship or the hurt of the past relationship. And I've seen it over and over again. And it's not that you've stayed very long, but the longer you stay, the more you have to really properly heal and understand your own responsibility in how the
Unbox your
relationship didn't work.
baggage.
Yes. I think the second thing is around the move to digital. I think it's even more pregnant with the younger people who have, like my older kids, been born with a smartphone, is that people are very afraid of rejection. You know, in the past you had to ask and then you get a yes or a no. Today you can do small steps and, oh, I like a video, it's already a move. But then as a result, people are very afraid of rejection, so they go very, very, very slow, and then nothing happens. Or it happens too fast because then someone is not patient and the other one wants to go very slow. So this whole digital makes it difficult. And then I add the spirit of Berlin, which is this extreme freedom, extremely I can do and say what I want, which sometimes brings disrespect. So I think there is some good and some bad to take into it. If you're not following, I really invite you to follow the magazine Playful. They've been doing a lot of work into interviewing people from the night scene in Berlin, and for me it's been an eye-opener of what true tolerance means in relationship. So this whole BDSM coding might be extreme for some people, but there is a lot to learn from it. Like, how do you describe how you want your relationship to be? What is a yes, what is a no for you? And it's not around weird sexual behavior, it's also on very basic stuff. You know, what do I ask you to support financially in the task at home, in how we behave with other people, how much is said and how much is kept private, you know? Having those conversations, I think, is really helpful. And in the Berlin scene, there are some people who have been acting weirdly and disrespectfully, and because they don't get caught, somehow they reproduce this. And then some people have been hurt. So I had some relationship because I'm dating, through apps, and then people said, yeah, you know, like people have the abrupt closure of a relationship and then ghost you, or classical. And then you say, why did you do that? Because you've been telling me the whole time how you were really putting respect at the top. And then people said, yeah, but it happened to me, so I thought I could do this. I'm just like, it's not because someone treated you badly. It's okay to treat other people badly, but you have to reflect that. You know, or some people I say, you know, I'm not interested in dating. I think we've got too many different things, but there's still some point that I think you could be a good companion and we could do that together. Would you like to have a coffee? And then people are kind of hush. And then I insist and say, why are you afraid of taking a coffee? Is there something around that I said that makes you uncomfortable? And then people in the nation say, no, actually, it was very gentle and I'm feeling so bad, but I didn't know what to answer. And I'm so afraid of people not committing and I didn't know what you really wanted. I said, well, this I wanted is friendship and this is what I wrote. But, you know, there is a lot of misunderstanding. So it's not easy.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's easier elsewhere, but it's not easy.
I also find it interesting how many things that you shared, how age agnostic that is. Like, I've had that experience in my 20s when I was still dating. I hear my friends in my 30s and 40s saying the same. I hear you say the same. Like, it's really a universal issue, not only city or if.
And do you think your situation, which means, like, let's call empowered woman or powerful woman, like in a high position, so business position, mother, and then also your situation, like personal situation, which stage are you of your life added more difficult to that, or you didn't feel that was a barrier?
Yeah, so I think we need to be very strict on this. Everyone is fabulous. And this whole thing that you need to be blonde, good looking, big lips, la la la, to find a partner is a big fat lie. It's a big fat lie. I think the most important is to be yourself. And I'm shocked by actually, sometimes I on the apps, I've not been putting the age bracket properly because I don't want to date very young people because I don't want to date someone the age of my kids. That's my personal choice. I don't judge on it, but I think it's a question of maturity. But I had very young people saying, hey, why don't you want to date me? And I was just like, So it's not, you can attract anyone. I think there is no real barrier, and I think people are more open through the dating app to dare to ask to interact with you. So I don't think it's really a problem, and I think the problem is people trying to be in a certain way, and actually you can see it right away. You know, someone who's been doing a special professional shooting, and actually they've got the same clothing in each picture. You know that it's not themselves. So what's the point? You know, in the end, you show something that people are not stupid. They're going to see that it doesn't work when they see you in real life. So how can you create you can say something authentic about you, and it's difficult because you feel very judged. So it's finding the authenticity. So for me, I think I don't need tons of people liking me. I just need one, like I'm actually monogamous, so one person is enough. And I'm sure there is this one person, and maybe he is listening to the show. So please tag me, send me a message, let's have a coffee.
Does the person knows about it?
I'm sure someone here, because I'm single right now and I'm looking, knows, Yeah.
So you said I'm dating it.
Yeah. No, I'm dating, like meaning I'm on the dating experience.
You're in the market.
I'm in the market, and
wow, all of these terms.
Yes.
Well, this came up. I don't know if more people use it. I love this one.
Yeah. So I think it's about knowing what you're after, and then there is enough people.
But these elements that I described, did you feel that any point was an issue, like being successful woman, having kids?
It's really funny. So let's talk about the successful women, because there is this patriarchy element here. But on the other topics, it's really funny. You have people who say, I want to date someone with children because it's a different way of interacting. And it's true. I've now had proof points. I realize, indeed, I don't behave the same way as someone who didn't have children. Or whether you like it or not, it's positive or negative. Some people say, I prefer to date someone with children because otherwise, because I'm 40, I get only girls who wants to have a child in the next year, and I'm not ready. I'm not saying I don't want to have children, but I want to have a child now. And I'm just like, but what happens in 5 years when you want to have a child? Because it's not going to work for me. It's all those things. So I think it's always pro and cons, and there is no real
I wasn't like, this is a heavy burden.
No. And I think the most important is that, people lying. It's so awful. A lot of men lie on their age. It's so sad. Yeah, so sad. I say at least 1 out of 2. I mean, and they lie on putting old pictures. When I'm going to see you at a coffee, you're not going to look 10 years younger. What's the point? What I find really sad is because you like about yourself. So actually, you send yourself a message, I don't like myself, which is not the best way to start a relationship. On the male-female, there is definitely a big thing. And I think there is a lot of work done at the moment. I like Scott Galloway talking about this, new masculinism. Let's face it, in the way we've been brought up, and especially me, with all this Cinderella waiting for Prince Charming, men were usually 2 to 10 years older, we're making more money, and we're basically seen as being the support of the family. This is how we've been brought up. You like it, you don't like it, this is what the system is about. And as a result, today, where 60% of graduates in the US are women, you have more women making more money than men. This is just practical in the young generation. So if women do not accept to marry down, meaning marrying someone who has less financial opportunities and career opportunities, matchmaking is not going to happen. Yeah. So what happens right now is that women tend to be attracted by men who have really great careers, which is 10% of the population, like the ones who have great career, great look, physical body, whatever are the external criterias. And then those guys, and I see a lot here who are successful in Berlin, they get all the girls they want. They break up, and then another girl's all smart, really nice, everything on the paper is coming up. So this mismatch is creating people who are left out, and I've got in my family and around, I see so many people who are, it's not that they're really fat or overweight, they're just like, maybe they don't have the body that you see in magazine or in this advertising for Calvin Klein. It's not that they are having a bad job. They just have a job that might not have this big title in this big company. It's not that they're not having the right outfit and fashion. They're just okay. But because they are not in this top 10%, they have to swipe 100 times to get a coffee, and they have to have 100 coffee to potentially have a second coffee. But and they get completely desperate.
Isn't that such an unsustainable way of thinking of your relationship, of your partnership? If you think about, you probably also think about having kids with that person. Wouldn't you want to have somebody that can complement you in a sense? So, if your career is busy, is making you busy, if your job is, as a woman, let's say, something that you decide to devote primarily to career, wouldn't you want your partner to maybe help you with children? And if you're on the equal or, more senior roles.
It's all about breaking the cliches. And I think I had a conversation last year with a woman who was telling that she had a friend, like, was really starting with a friendship and moved into more of a romantic relationship. And now she was thinking, is it really where I want to go? And her partner was a musician. Mm-hmm. And then she felt he had not really, his career was, ups and downs, sometimes earning money, sometimes not. And And then I was asking her, what are you looking? You're like, what is missing? And actually, what was missing is breaking the image, breaking what is expected as the good partner. So
the new fairy tale that we can read.
Exactly. We have to really to crack this Walt Disney and tear it apart and pull it to the bin. But it's much easier to talk about it, to apply it to yourself. So it's hard.
Yeah.
There's something funny that calls my attention with what he said is the part of women, like successful women are looking for a successful man. And it's funny that to bring from that perspective, because we even have one of our guests, Bianca Pratorius, who has this dating app created for powerful women that are looking for men, or men that are open to be with powerful women.
I didn't know about this.
And it's funny because every time I been into this conversation, the conversation always was like men feel threatened or diminished beside a powerful woman. So I always had this vision that the man is the one that is having an issue, but not that the women are not also like, you're not for me. I never saw that. I always thought like women, well, we're open, we're evolved beings, and we're just looking to the human person, the human being behind whatever. But now you brought me like, okay, women are also like, oh, no, you're not. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
This is kind of
I think we need to be careful always when we say men do this, women do this, because it's, of course, generalization. But I've seen men who were feeling uncomfortable because, like, they like that you pay, like restaurants or invite them, but somehow they have to crack the fact that if you both pay, it's because you want to treat the other and you want to gift, and it's generous, it's from the heart, and it's not a power game. And we've been so used to having power games, who's the strongest, who's the weakest, who's great, who's not great, who's appropriate, not appropriate, that we get into that trap. And then instead of receiving this generous giving of, I invite you for a weekend, you think, oh, I'm a man and she's taking manlyhood. So this is what's happening. I've observed in guys I've been dating where there was a discomfort towards their own expectation of themselves. And then how do you crack that? How do you say, no, I'm just generously supporting?
I find it interesting that even in the city like Berlin, right, where we are priding or loudly saying that we pride ourselves on having the new way of thinking, having the new way of interacting, accepting different physical shapes, emotional types, interaction, roles, redefining the roles, and yet we still have the same core issue. Our ideas of what our roles are still somewhere in the middle and still back where it was. I mean,
2,000 years of patriarchy. Patriarchy is defined by a small group of white male having the power and sticking to it. So we've been brainwashed over and over again with systems that were benefiting a small crowd. And now, if you want to have a system that benefits everyone, you have to deconstruct a lot of elements. Mm-hmm. And I think in the end, some people feel threatened by it. Once you touch and you see how everyone can contribute, I strongly believe that it allows everyone to really make this world a better place. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a say. I also need to do my own deconstruction, and it's a journey. And I get caught. I just actually earlier said the word fat, which I promised myself I would never use in my life, and I still do it. We have to deconstruct the way we talk and the way we box people.
It's very deep, no? It's very many areas. So I have one more question, a little bit broader, not just about relationship, men, women, or partners, but general social life. So you mentioned in one of your first experiences in Berlin how important, you felt alone, right? Yeah. You felt, I don't know anybody yet. Yeah. And especially knowing you were an expat in Amsterdam, so you have something to compare with. How was building like a strong social network here in Berlin compared to perhaps your experience in Amsterdam?
So first, for me, I had to get between alone and lonely. Mm-hmm. I think when you've been, like I was 15 years in a marriage with 4 kids, it's always busy, so you're never alone. And because you are never alone, you don't have to feel lonely. I mean, you can still feel lonely with a lot of people. That's another element. So I had to start understanding what I want to do with my me time. And I think this first a question I need to ask of yourself, am I feeling lonely, or how do I apprehend my alone time in a way that is really uplifting? But then not to feel lonely, I think you have to create those relationships. I'm a born extrovert. I'm very extroverted. So for me, it's rather easy to connect with people. And I've learned over time how to connect. So in Amsterdam was my first expat, Berlin was my third. So I know how to find my crowd. So for me, it's been pretty easy. I've been connecting with a French network, and I went there, a big event. I spotted 5 women that I thought were really people that I would like to be with, and then I just connected with them, and they became really a very close group of friends. I went to my church because for me it's an international crowd who has the same values, so that was very easy to connect, and I made friends from all ages, all countries, and it was really a blessing. And then I love connecting with women in the workplace. And when I arrived in Berlin, there was no real network happening in English. We're back 2014, so it might be shocking for people listening to the show now. I mean, just the fact that we're in this room and we have this co-working space is kind of mind-blowing, even though I think Betahaus did exist. But there was not much.
They were celebrating 5 years back then.
And actually, I created a women network to engage women at middle to leadership level. And this was also a way for me to expand my network with like-minded people. And it's been also incredible how a lot of things have been germinating from that seed of creating a network. So I think every time, if you want to connect with people, see what exists. And if it doesn't exist, just create it, get people in the room, and it's marvelous. I mean, there is a recent experience of a woman who was creating a restaurant club. So she likes going to restaurants. She doesn't want to go alone. And she just posted in different social media, hey, is there another female French speaker who wants to go to the restaurant with me? Right now it's 200 people, all in different neighborhoods, who are going every month together to restaurants because you want to meet people in your neighborhood, enjoy gastronomy, and make friends. So it's as simple as creating a Facebook, WhatsApp group. So it's quite magic.
And the community that you mentioned that you started, that's Rising Pineapples, right?
No, I started European Professional Women Network, which I did for 2.5 years. And then afterwards, a lot of communities started in English. And the main problem was the female networks were mostly led by companies, like consulting firms or audit firms, and they were mostly German. But then 2017 starting to have a lot of things happening, so it didn't make sense to continue. Then I created Rising Pineapple, but this is a different vibes. The idea was to leverage the new bank holiday of International Women's Rights Day, the 8th of March, 2019, to get women together. And the idea is to not only connect women, but equip and inspire. And actually, this is the news of today. We're going to do it again this year. And it's decided since yesterday. I'm completely freaking out, but it's going to be freaking out because it's in a month. But it's going to be, I'm sure, a great event. So I think it's about creating the moment and the experiences that catalyst what you want to see in the world. And I think for me, I wanted to have this catalyst moment for sorority, for women to have this sisterhood, this strong sense of lifting and uplifting each other. And it really worked wonders. So I love having those community events.
Absolutely. Giving first collaboration and community work.
I would like to ask, what do you consider was an important mistake you did in your career?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think a classical mistake and one that I've done is not working on my network enough. I think it's everything I'm saying is always valid for everyone, but even more for women. We tend to think that hard work will deliver good results and that people will see our hard work. Big fat lie. It's not true. You have to really make sure that what you do is, of course, bringing results, but is seen and valued. And that the people who will take the decision at some point to move you in your career, open doors, it can be internal promotion, it can be recommended you for another job, they are actually having a good grasp of the successes or the achievement that you've been having. And if you're not nurturing that network, which is partly people having official power and partly people having unofficial power, it can be the assistant of the boss who knows about your project and get you a slot whenever you need a decision fast. That will change the game. So that's, I think, this element of networking and having the right people who knows what you're doing is essential, and I've totally underinvested in this. And something that I've done partly and could have done much better and much faster is having your cabinet. Like a prime minister, you want to have a group of people who know their shit about what you're doing, whatever it is, professional, personal, and who are going to filter the noise. You know, if you ask everyone how you're doing, you're always going to have haters. You always have jealous people, people who do not like you, or people who are not feeling comfortable, who are going to give you negative feedback, which is not necessarily constructive. When you have this close group of people who can help you take decisions, they're going to be the ones saying, hey, you're going sideways. This is not working. You're doing too many things. This focus is not clear. I don't understand this. You've not been talking enough about this. You know, like really the prime minister and the cabinet. And you really need to build that group of people. And today I have it, and it's like changing. You know, when I've got a storm coming my way or my emotions are unraveling, I can talk to these people and say, hey, this is what's happening. I'm thinking of doing this. Just like, calm down.
Breathe.
I think it's the right thing.
Breathe and constantly.
Are you sure everybody thinks this way, or it's only one point on the ghost curve? You know, like it doesn't feel like this is right, or it feels like actually it's smaller, or good, you did it. Yes, it was the right thing to do. You're maybe afraid that you've done it, but it was the right thing to do. You know, like you need those people around you that you totally trust, and you know they want your good, but they won't shy away from the truth because they know you well. They're able to tell you when it's wrong.
I was taking notes, and I'm sure that our listeners will do the same, or if they're not yet, please start now, because there's a lot of valuable life lessons here.
You forget 90% of what you've heard in a week, so the best way is actually take notes and talk to someone about what you've learned, because repeating is the way you learn.
Solidifying it.
There's something here that I find interesting, like what do you consider networking? Like what kind of activities for you is considered good networking or effective networking? I think that's something very important also.
So the thing is that in life, I really think that everything works well when it's really genuinely from your heart. Whenever you're manipulating, and if you really think of networking as, I'm going to move my points and it's strategic and everything, it's not from the heart. So at some point, it's not going to work out. You're not going to drop it because you don't enjoy it. You know, like, so it's more about thinking, how can I leverage my natural willingness to interact with other people to make it, to open doors, to make me shine my true self. So for some people, it might take different aspects. You know, for some people, going in a big event is really hard. What I observe is usually difficult for people is to actually know what they want to say. Most people don't know how to interact with others because they don't know what to say. So what do you want to say? You know, what defines what you're doing today? What is your ask? What is your give? You know, I'm today an expert in e-commerce, and I help CEO and executive team to build winning strategies in digital. You know what I'm doing. My ask, maybe my ask at the moment, I want to have people who are expert in marketing because I want to do a top-to-top meeting. My give, I can give you time to help you figure out your career. You know, like when I've got that toolbox, I can go to anyone and say, hey, this is what I can give, this is what I can take, this is who I am. And then people see me and just like, maybe they don't know something about top marketing at the moment, but maybe in 2 weeks I say, there was this woman who was talking about like top marketing. Maybe, see, this guy is really good. This woman's doing that. Yeah, maybe, or this woman really lost in, no, I should say reverse. This man who's really lost in his career. Actually, I've got a lot of men lost in their career at 50 because this midlife crisis is really difficult. And then they will think about it. And this is where you have really effective networking, is that this connection, you know, like we're groups of people who cannot do anything alone. Mm-hmm. We have to be doing things together. And then if I know what you need, if I know how I can help you, then I will generously do it with a heart. It might not mean it's going to be for free, but it's going to be, you know, a natural, easy relationship that's going to build.
So know your value proposition and know your needs.
And your give.
And your give. Adding that to my notes.
This is the most important in the social element, right? You don't want to arrive at a conversation all needy, no? Like it's
okay to be needy.
Yeah?
No problem.
You think?
No, because what needy is a judgment. Having a need.
Let me rephrase my need. It's like, and maybe it's not even negative as I'm posing. That's an interesting question. Going to an event, knowing there's people there that would like to do something there, like business, interact with them directly, and go directly, like not directly in the sense of business-wise, but like doing it personal, but it's not personal because actually you want to do business with the person. You know what I mean? Like be on top of the...
Okay, it's
that's,
okay.
That's good. That's bad in your vision. How is that?
Okay.
And that's what I meant needy, you know? Like,
see, let me try to rephrase. So you're saying, how could I express my need, my demand, without being overwhelming the other person who feels that they're used, they're not comfortable. So I would say, first, when you have a need, there is supply on the other side. So if you have a need to sell something, there is someone who actually desperately look for your product. If you don't believe that someone desperately look for a product, is that because you're doing something that is just no value. So if I'm selling this teapot and I really love it and it's beautiful, if I'm trying to sell it to you, I'm not needy. I think it is the best teapot ever and you should buy it. And hopefully you're looking for this. So will I be wasting your time? Yes, if you're a coffee drinker. You don't want to hear about teapots. So give me a break. Don't pretend you're going to be my friend to try to push me this teapot. No. So I think it's really finding out how can I crack quickly if we have a match. And then I can, if there is a match, then I can, if I understand what you bring to the table, what I bring to the table, then it goes afloat. And then if you do it in a way that is not taking too much time, then the other person would think, oh, I'm not a tea drinker, but maybe I've got this person I know, and then the match is going to happen. I think what is always annoying is when people try to do two things at the same time. They want to become your friend. They want to tell you something smart because they want to look, smart and impressive. And then they want to sell you something, but they don't really know what you need. So then this whole thing becomes a waste of time for everyone. And there is this mixed emotions and, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, nice. On the same line, what do you consider was a good decision or the best decision or very important decisive decision in your career?
I guess for me, taking this role at Zalando was a really good decision. It was a harsh decision, like jumping on the bandwagon. And I think the accompanying decision was to get a lot of help. I think we all have 24 hours a day, and you have to choose your battles. I'm actually on top of that a long sleeper, so I don't have as many hours. I'm gifted with being fast, which kind of compensates somehow. But still, even if I sleep only 8 hours, I still have, the 16 left like everyone. So what do I do with my 16 hours? And you have to decide how you want to use them. So for me, it was very clear. There are some tasks, and especially as a mother, it's quite sometimes difficult to take the decision because the world is saying what you're supposed to be doing. So you have to decide where I'm going to allocate my tasks. So I've been taking a lot of support. I had 25 hours of babysitting, I had 10 hours of housekeeping. And I was, for instance, letting my kids go to school alone with a taxi driver. At least there was the app to follow them. But, at the beginning when the taxi driver was seeing me coming with my 4 kids, they say, hey, I don't take 5 people. No, you're taking only 4 kids. It was shaky, and there was a judgment. And honestly, I was not feeling really okay with it. And then I thought, actually, I don't like driving. I'm not a great driver, so I didn't have a lot of accidents, but I got close to accident many times. So I'm not the best driver, so it's much safer.
We heard about your jaywalking experience. So.
So I think it's better to have a driver. I don't have an hour, go back and forth, and I prefer to have an hour in the evening with my kids. And actually, they're feeling safe and comfortable. So that was a good decision for me. I'm not saying it's a good decision for everyone, but that was a good use of my money in order to save 1 hour of time. So what are the things you like doing, the things that you don't really like doing, but the world is saying you should be doing, and you should delegate them. And I think for me, there is also this difficulty, mostly for women, to spend money in order to get support. My rule is if it costs me less money than I can earn, and I put my threshold at least 20. Now I'm kind of putting it a bit higher because I'm earning more money, but I should basically delegate, and someone's going to be very happy to do that job because I think I'm a good employer. I'm trying to really make people enjoy what they're doing because they're better what they do than I am, and then it creates a job, it creates a good dynamic, and it's actually very nice for everyone. So finding out that balance is super, super important because in the end, your career that you're going to develop, the money you're going to earn, it will allow you to do many other things. So use your hours wisely, really.
I 100% relate to that. Also being a mother of 2, like finding that, and particularly what you said, choosing your battles or choosing what you can do, targeting, and shutting down that social pressure voice. I think those are few things I've added to my notes.
There's something that we didn't get clear to me. Why choosing Zalando was an important decision in your career?
I think for me, what I see is that a lot of people do not let themselves slow down. And I think there is a moment in life when you need to slow down. There is a lot of people, for instance, now who are taking care of the aging parents. And this is a moment where you cannot accelerate your career. And that's totally okay. And I think there is this voice saying, hey, if you're not full on your career all the time, then you will not be able to recover. If I take a too longer maternity break, if I'm taking 6 months off to take care of my aging parents, if I'm sick, like all those kind of things. And it's a lie, you can reaccelerate your career, but it comes at a price. So for me, my first intention with the separation was to go back to Amsterdam and not take a job for a year to settle my family. It was a big risk, actually, to decide to go full on. And I'm glad I took it. But for me, it was this idea that I want to recover my sense of self, and my sense of self comes with also delivering in the workplace, as being a leader, as much as earning money and building something, also taking care of a big team is something that I would really enjoy, and I think I'm gifted at, and I wanted to really explore. And so it was a jump.
So you would say that it was an important decision because, in one hand, you took back the control of professional life, and also because you accelerated your career in, let's call the right moment.
Yeah, opportunity comes. It's like a train. If you're on the platform and the train is leaving, you have a choice. Either you accelerate and jump in the train. It's a bit risky, but you need first to, or you just wait for the next train. And this is, I think, the difficulty is finding out which train you should leave, let go, and which train you should jump on. But it's jumping. It's not just like easy, let's look at the space. It's never easy in life. You have to be taking those. So it's left or right. And it's not because you've let a train pass that another one is not going to come. So you need to find out for yourself, what is really your own trigger at that moment. And, having the courage, because a lot of people say that I was crazy to do that. And indeed, there was some part of craziness doing it. I would say some bold hope. Bold hope that the school would work. Bold hope that I found a nice apartment. Bold hope that I would not be too far from the work. Bold hope that I would be successful in this career. Bold hope that I would be healthy for 4 years. This is all those things.
Yeah, of course. Amazing. So now I'd like to do a different dynamic. It's the moment of the questions out of the box. Literally. I would ask you to kindly take this first box.
Let's look at the box. Ooh.
Big box.
Open it.
Let's open it.
And
there's many questions on the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take first one.
Your current favorite minority. Oh.
That's
a
very important. These
interesting
questions
one.
were taken out of famous interviews on the internet.
So, what is your current favorite minority?
Yeah,
That's very nice. No, it's
all out of the box.
Very, very open. I've discovered, actually, women are not minority because we are 52% on Earth, but in the business world, we are minority. And I think what has been really interesting for me is to look at people who are even less numerous and who are having even more bias against them. And I think where you've got the worst is intersectionality. So anyone having an intersectionality of race, gender, sexual orientation, ability, is bringing way more to the table to me in terms of opening my way of thinking, because it's when you have a privilege, you don't see it, and when you interact with people having a bias against them, then you realize how much your brain is computing in a way that really is not fair. So for me, people having intersectionality is for me really a big eye opener.
Yeah, and just stupid, which is literal. That's good. While you're talking, while you're saying, it sounds like a joke, but it's literally my mind going freely. By your description, the new Messiah will be black, gay, in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah, but listen to people who are black, gay, and in a wheelchair, and see what they're saying.
Yeah, of course.
And then you realize, I had this conversation last summer in a festival, how do you feel when you want to go to the gym and you're black, gay, in a wheelchair?
I mean, in city of ours, how do you feel when you want to take a public transport and you're in a wheelchair?
Yeah, and it's
or with a stroller, or
Germany capital, and
so it's the practical aspect of life which is more difficult, but it's also the judgment. Like how people who are in a wheelchair this is some things that I've not had from the person directly, but that I've read, is because you're lower physically, people look down to you, and then they tend to speak like you're not smart. And that's terrible. That's terrible. So, and unfortunately, we have those biases, and the most important is to know for yourself your biases. So when I have opportunity to talk to trans women or to people of color having really daily in Berlin racism, then I realize, okay, how is my behavior? Am I also, I've got a friend, her son had decided to leave Berlin because he's this young black guy, and when he was younger, he was this kind of really cute guy, and now he's bigger. He's still as cute, but he's got this morphology that is a very strong man. And he said that almost every day, older women, white, would change sidewalks when he's walking.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, am I changing sidewalks? How do I look at a tall black guy? Yes, I might have this mental thing as saying, is he a ginger or not? So you have to question yourself. How is your own behavior? So I think for me, this is why I really appreciate. So I've co-created a network of diversity, equity, and inclusion advocates with Julia Nipol 2 years ago. And it's been, for me, very, very interesting to be close to people who are representing minorities, but also people who are working in the sphere of DEI, to be exposed. Because because I'm a white woman and I've got education, I've got nationality, I speak English, there's this wheel of power and influence which is really interesting. I'm not have the top power, but I'm really close to the top power. So I don't see my privileges anymore. When you don't have a passport, what does it mean? You're on a visa, you don't behave in the same way. I had some friends, suddenly when they got their visa, they realized they started to be speaking in the company, because in the workplace before they were so afraid they would be fired because it would mean going back to their own country, that they were not speaking up. So I've got the privilege that I feel very comfortable speaking up. Actually, I'm doing it right now. How do I make sure people who have no voice can express their voice?
And it's crazy because it might sound simplistic, but now listening to you, the solution would be as easy as giving voice to all these people, right? Because it seems that, like the case of speaking down to a person in a wheelchair, it's because it seems that we're not exposed enough to these people in a, I would even call not even a privileged situation, but just a normal situation, right? Or even better in situations of power, a CEO in a wheelchair,
So this is what I love, like in clubs, maybe I shouldn't know the names, but in clubs in Berlin, which are very open and maybe where people are not so dressed, there are also people in wheelchairs. And I think, what is touching my heart is not that people in wheelchair are admitted, that's a no-brainer, is that people are dancing with people in a wheelchair as if they were not in a wheelchair. And it's interesting, when I go to some clubs in France, especially in the summer with my kids, I had many young women coming to me and said, hey, I want to be like you when I'm aging, and it's so nice that you're still here and dancing. And it seems nice, but actually it's ordinary ageism. It's hey, I tell you, you don't belong, but I feel like you're cool enough that you can belong. Yeah, exactly. When I go to a club in Berlin, nobody cares about my white hair. Like you belong. And this is really this true inclusivity. How do we make sure that people who are different are not treated in a different way, so they are feeling completely part of the show? And I think this is what the Berlin night scene is teaching us. Someone coming dressed as a blue rabbit is looked at someone really interesting and not as someone who's weird. How do we make sure that someone who would show in our workplace, not maybe costume as a blue rabbit, but someone having this so striking difference in their being that I'm able to forget or not pay attention to their outward appearance or all the stigmas, their English accent or anything else, and I can fully treat what they bring to the table with the same value, because this is where lies the success for your company.
Cool, amazing.
Very strong words, very important words, and very valuable words. Maybe with that we take another question out of the box. This one drove us to...
I feel like a local girl,
yes.
Like the total sexism of the past. Okay. So one person you definitely can't stand for breakfast. So actually that was a very difficult one to find out. And I think what annoys me the most is the people who stand for breakfast in these hotel rooms hotel breakfast and act as if the people who are serving in the room were not existing. You see? Like there is someone who's finishing vacuum cleaning and then they walk, they step above the vacuum cleaner as if, like this person was an object, not saying hello or nothing. And, like this is something that if I'm having breakfast with this person, that makes me very tense. Yes.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's funny, every time I come back from Brazil, we spend a month or two, like last time was 3. When I came back, I was laughing with my partner, like, I'm gonna keep saying hello to everyone, even though they're not gonna look to me, or they're gonna look to me like, are you, who is this weird person?
Yeah, I'm from the Balkans, we have the same, but I've noticed particularly in Europe, that is common. There's a difference between service and the one who's being served.
So I give you one tip. More and more people are using first name in the workplace, which was not the case 30 years ago when I started working.
Especially not in Germany.
And first name has got something very intimate because this is what your parents called you. And I find it really interesting when you meet people on a regular basis to learn their first name. So, for instance, at the cafeteria in the canteen here, I ask the people who are serving every day, what's your name? And then you call him by name, and then they call you by name. And the funny thing that I've observed, so I didn't do that on purpose, but I observed is that when you come in and people call you by name, people think you're really important. So when I was working at Tom Hilfiger, there was this hallway, very narrow when people came in, so everybody was coming with this hallway, and then I was always greeted by the receptionist because I was greeting the receptionist. And then who is the receptionist greeting? The top people. Because he doesn't know the name of other people, because they never introduce themselves, because they're never interacting. And there is this kind of really side benefit of it, which is consideration brings attention.
Yeah.
Future of Berlin. Berlin as a city we all want to live in. We've talked about a lot about different life lessons that you share, many that are applied to Berlin. But I want to go back a little bit to some of the big fat lies that you mentioned, and particularly thinking about the working culture in Berlin. I'm wondering, what are some of the big fat lies you have heard or you have maybe experienced yourself and realized about the Berlin working culture?
So I guess what is happening in the Berlin culture is that people say that they're very inclusive, that everything can come the way they want, but actually they're all looking like each other and they have the same way of thinking. So there is this hipster culture. So it might seem that it's kind of extravagant, but in the end, it's all the same people wearing the same sneakers. And what happens is that if someone is coming dressed differently, they're not really welcome. So I saw it was really interesting when I was recruiting, and some of my team members were interviewing a woman who was coming from the Nordics, and she had really heavy makeup, and she was dressed very elegantly, very sophisticated. And it didn't really match this kind of easy culture at Zalando. And you say you're inclusive, but actually you're not. So it's interesting to question ourselves, especially in this gentrified neighborhood of Berlin. Are we that different? Are we feeling really able to express our differences? Or actually, because we've rebelled, we actually all rebelled at the same time, we're actually all the same, and we're reproducing the gray suit into the jeans and sneakers, but in the same way you had to have the right tie and the right gray suit, you need to have the right sneakers and the right sweatshirts in order to belong. So they're unspoken codes.
Because you are and being in top positions in big companies, how often is that happening? And most important, like, if you see that happening, how much can you do without risking your own position?
Okay, if you want to be an advocate, you need to risk. So of course you're risking something every time you're speaking up. But you should speak up every single time you're seeing something unfair happening. This is the only way to be true to yourself and your values. I think what is important is that to create awareness. I'm calling out today things that I would have never called out 10 years ago because I was not aware. Again, coming back to my privileges. Now when I see it, I'm thinking, what is this word used here? What is this attitude? I'm saying, I'm sorry, I feel uncomfortable when you're using this word. Could you please not use it?
At that time, were you able to advocate for this woman? Or you weren't conscious enough at that
first,
time?
So basically I was able to put it to the table and say, I fear that there is judgment here because of the way she looks. Can we focus more on what she said? Yeah.
I'm good.
But, to the point of having really fairness in recruitment, and this is a work that is done by a lot of DEA advocates in their own role in their company, is making sure that you have the same number of success per type of applicants. This is an exercise I've done in a board actually last week. It's a board where, in a company where there is a rather high level of women at the low level, which is classical of retail, and we had a lesser success of men within the recruitment process. So basically, there is less men applying, but out of the men applying, there are less success ratio than women. And most likely, some women have got a bias in the recruitment against men. Maybe they think men are less caring. I don't know what it is, but they have a mental bias, which means they will judge a man more harshly. So it's both sides. So in the end, it's all about your own education on your biases. And I think this is the risk of Berlin. It's shown that actually when you do a training on biases, people at first start to be worst because they think, hey, I've done a training, so I'm good. I've got a black friend, so I'm not a racist. You've got your excuse, so you kind of,
feel better.
It takes some time to go deeper. So it's not because you've got a gender bias training that actually you're able to be fair in the treatment of equal treatment and genders. But then afterwards, when you really go to really this awareness, and then people are catching each other because it's a journey. And I'm making a lot of mistakes. I'm sure I've made more than one mistake. I know already one, but more mistake in that interview in the way I'm speaking. I need people to call me out too. But this is this exercise that we have to do together in order to create a fairer place.
And it's a process. I want to talk to you about opportunities. So you help not just women, you also help men find what their core is, unlock with your special key their superpowers, and also change their careers. So I'm wondering, in context of Berlin, are there enough opportunities, knowing that Berlin is known for its startup scene? Berlin is also known, it doesn't have actually headquarters since Siemens moved out decades ago, except for maybe Zalando and newcomer unicorns such as Zalando. But does Berlin have enough opportunities for career advancements, particularly thinking about senior positions and above?
So I've got a mentality of abundance. So I never think scarcity.
Okay.
I've been thinking scarcity in dating for a long time, and I had to rewire myself. But I think if you're starting any search, any things with the mentality of scarcity, you're looking for an apartment, but I will never find my apartment because it doesn't exist, and there is so little and I cannot get it, it's never going to work out. So I think first we have to we have to dig into what makes us think scarcity. What is the fear, what the underlying shame, guilt that is blocking my idea of abundance. So I think there is a job for everyone, and now we need to find it. And I have to say it's hard right now. For instance, all the creative works. I've got friends who have been working in content writing, in photo editing. All this is challenged a lot by AI. So there are difficulties, and I'm not denying them, but I think there is place for everyone. I think what is really interesting in Berlin is because rent and, way of living, including rent, which is a big chunk of our expenses, has been low. You have people from all walks of life living together. So, for instance, when I arrived, I had a friend who was a puppeteer. She was doing puppet shows. It's difficult to live from doing puppets, but she had like a daytime work, and she could rent a small place where she was doing puppet shows. You cannot see that in the center of Paris anymore since many, many years. So I think Berlin has got this gentle, maybe led by this communist approach, but helping people live together. And I think we all benefit from this because, a puppeteer has got a very different view of life, by the way that you can say stuff with a puppet that you cannot able to pronounce with your mouth, which is very, very interesting. And I think this is where I really feel like if people are really searching their talent, there is a way to make a decent living in Berlin. It's not always obvious. Some situations are more difficult, but I think at all levels you can find something because of this openness and the widespread of type of jobs that you can have in Berlin.
I love that. And I loved one thing that you touched here, particularly towards the end of your answer, which was Berlin is not a melting pot. Berlin is a collage of different individuals, not trying to melt into one, but looking on how can we learn and build upon each other. But maybe circling back to those opportunities, looking into the future of Berlin, and what I'm questioning is, does Berlin offer enough to also attract from other cities, other countries, people looking for opportunities, people looking for specific roles. Do we have enough? That would be my question.
Again, abundance mentality, I think, yes, we can create fabulous companies. What is important to attract people? I think housing. I mean, right now, people who are coming here, I've heard many people saying, I took a week of a holiday and I was literally every second on my phone to apply for an apartment. I mean, this is not healthy. I think we have the chance to have a lot of international schools, which is the history. I think what is fabulous about Berlin is that this city has been built in the 1920s for 4 million people, and we're just now 4 million. Mm-hmm. So actually it's oversized in everything. You know, S-Bahn are not running like in Paris every 30 seconds. So there is room to actually accommodate more people, and there is a lot of space, a lot of... also, we had this Iron Curtain time where we doubled. So we have an opera in the east, an opera in the west, a zoo in the east, and a zoo in the west. So the infrastructure is really fabulous for creating even more. I think we've got this open culture. So if we're able to attract the people to come, they will build the companies, they will build their role. I've got no worries. I think it could be really this space of creativity and new ideas and disruption, and we have all what it takes to make this happen.
I love that.
And do you think it's happening? Is still happening? Or you think it's...
I think it's still happening. I mean, looking at all the companies, I mean, the difficulty is that we're in a big macroeconomic wave where money was way too abundant and now money became way too scarce. And I've seen this in 2000, in 2008, and in world is repeating. Why? Because mostly investors are copying each other, because it takes a long time to actually deep dive into a company to understand if it's worth investing or not. So it's all about, you did it, you did the due diligence, I'm going to back you up, and then everybody is following each other. So that leads to trends where when something is moving one side, everybody follows, and there is a bit of this bigger wave than everyone was taking their own decision outside an ecosystem. So we had this, plus the macroeconomic environment with interest rates. So right now, there is everywhere in the world difficulty to create and fund startups. It's gonna come back. It might be a bit longer than the last crisis, might take a bit more time, but I think people who have great ideas are working on it now. They might take 1 or 2 years before they get the funding to actually make it happen, but I think there is no reason why this vibrant tech scene should not create more and more unicorns in the coming years.
But do you think Berlin is attracting like big companies, as Iva was saying, like Siemens moved its HQ out of Berlin, like there was like some exodus going on, no, for a certain period. I think I have 2 questions on that. Why you think this happened, and probably the second one is the answer of it, is like what Berlin would need to do to attract again these big companies.
So I've been doing, after my business school, kind of an extra year on theory of organizations. Mm-hmm. And it really shocked me that actually a big organization is more efficient than individuals. And sometimes when you see in company how things are slow and how people are not interacting with each other, you think, how on earth is it possible that they're more efficient than individual entrepreneurs? So there is some truth around big organization being more productive. But more and more, I think we are moving into situations where companies are using more and more we're forming teams for certain projects. So we are more and more moving towards a freelancer setup. Even within a company, you might have teams which are taking some expertise for one project. You see it in tech a lot. You know, you have like a virtual team created on a tech product. And then when this project is over, the team, the skill set within the company is reformed to different teams. So I believe we're going to go more and more into these very open structures where you build up whatever you need, you know, for that mission, and then you reopen. And I don't believe necessarily that Berlin needs to attract big companies in order to be successful. I think it's more, how do we create this very vibrant network so people can contribute to a project, then move to another, so reducing the frictions of finding the right job, finding the right skills. And very often, you know, I'm asked in big companies, you know, hey, where do I find, for instance, we were talking about marketeers before, a very good online marketeer. But most of the company cannot really afford to hire a top talent because this person might have been leading a huge team before and it doesn't really feel right. But they want to have an expert who might going to help them for 6 months, and then go and do something else. So it's how do we create the legal setup, the tax setup, and then this very open organization within cities. I mean, we know freelancers like to be in Cape Town right now, which is quite funny because all those young people here in Berlin say they're so conscious about the eco and being eco-friendly, and then they fly to Cape Town, but that's another topic. So I think we need to create that environment where we can have very easily access, and there are many more platforms now for freelancers, but I think this is in dynamic that Berlin has something to play because it's such a nice city to live in. We have this quality of life with, I mean, I bike 2 traffic lights from my home and I'm in the countryside. You know, which city in the world can tell you that? Which means not only the traffic light, because I don't like traffic lights, but it's also because, you know, I'm not interrupted. I can go and then for 2 hours, like empty my head and just cycle. You know, I can go and do a cycle and swim, you know, like, so we have so much to offer as a city.
So you say that we would need then to have more kind of innovation agencies or agents that facilitate the companies to be more flexible, versatile, or
But and
agile.
I think, and also attracting all those individual workers or small units who can plug into other units.
But I think it's important what you also mentioned, the legal setup. So having from a bureaucracy standpoint, we all know German bureaucracy is not famous for its flexibility. In order to be able to be that fluid in terms of acquiring experts or exchanging.
I mean, I think we can look towards Tallinn, for instance, where in Estonia, a lot of people are creating their company because, I mean, right now, apparently, it's not that easy to get citizenship because they're overflown. But, you know, how do you think that we can create a status as an independent that it's very easy to do your tax? And I think this Gewerbeanmeldung here in Germany is not that complicated, so it's pretty good. But how do you support the economy? And I think somehow Berlin could, you know, create or support more co-living, co-working spaces, creating those support for people to interact with each other and facilitate exchanges so people can come in, contribute, and help build the successful success stories without necessarily attracting the old corporation, traditional, which I don't think is the way we will create a better world. They have their role in this current economy, but I think it's very difficult to create disruption in very big people organizations.
Let me piggyback on that roles of different institutions or different organizations. So you're a member of betahaus, you're a member of co-working. From your perspective, what role do a co-working space play in an ecosystem like this?
So I think the role of a place like betahaus is creating 2 things. So first, a nice place to work in. Having good working condition is essential. And as rent is getting higher, people will not be very comfortable working home. So I think it's just a physical space, you know, having a chair at the right height and all those kind of things. And I think there is a big role in terms of building a community. And I think this is what is quite amazing at betahaus, is how people interact with each other, the conversation happening next to the coffee machine. Some people are not very comfortable because they don't know what to say, as we said earlier, but when you open up and say, hey, what are you doing? What is your need at the moment? And how can I help you? What was your challenge? There is a lot of things happening. And I think this is where those moments are of creating those network and there's contacts, and then, oh, you need this, I know this person, and you know, and this is the vibrant aspect of doing business, in which accelerates a lot of your performance when you know where to plug in.
Coming back to that network, knowing your value, knowing your needs, and knowing what to give.
Exactly.
Beautiful. So, Delphine, do you still enjoy living in Berlin, and why?
I love it. Yeah, I love this high and low. I love that I can go to church and then to Berghain, and I can go to the city center and enjoy an exhibition, and the next day do stand-up paddle and camp in kind of some grass in some land an hour away from Berlin. I love that I don't need a car here because thanks to all those startups and VC funded, we have a lot of new ways of living, nicely subsidized by VCs. So you can get your food, you can get your medicine, you get and everything you need home very easily. So the quality of life is amazing in Berlin. So that's great.
Beautiful. A true postcard to the city. Diego, what do you have?
So if you could create an utopia for the city, what would look like?
Yeah, so I've got one utopia, which is not so utopic, is I really believe a lot in the future of mobility. I think once we have self-driving cars who can take you from a place and bring you to a hub, like Bahnhof, a station, we can get more remote places to come and join the vibrant center. And it's not so far away. We had some attempts with some shared cabs around here, but I think somehow breaking out the problem of housing by having people who could live like 45 minutes away, who can come in the city for maybe 1 or 2 days a week to work together, to exchange with others, without having to pay a heavy price in terms of time spent in transport and cost of infrastructure, I think could be broken by self-driving vans or things like that. So that's a bit my utopia.
Not far, hopefully not far from reality, as we see in some progresses, no?
Yeah.
And last question before we move to the next section of the show is, what is something that you're very grateful in your life?
I think I'm grateful with people who have been guiding me, giving me the harsh feedback, and sharing deeply their experiences so I can be a better person. So continue giving harsh feedback. I love it. It's hard, but it's so important to grow.
A candid reflectioner indeed.
Cool. So now we're gonna do the section which I call a joy shared is a double joy. So this is our guest book, and the guest that was here before wrote a question, but the guest didn't know it was for you. So you're gonna read the question here.
Yeah, okay.
And
what would be your 10 action points to make Berlin more livable in the future? I don't think we have that much time to do 10 points, but 10, so I'm going to do top of my heart. So putting the legal system to test self-driving car, that would be fabulous. Please put spaces for shared cars, so it becomes much, much easier to drive a shared car than to drive your personal car. Do like in Amsterdam, every year put 10% less parking spots, and those parking spots become spaces for cafes and green. That would be fabulous. I think we need to do quite a lot on helping people improve insulation and home, so we're not heating so much, and we can really improve on this. That's already 4. Helping people being able to get rid of their stuff and exchange easier. So creating some kind of, we had in my neighborhood this bookshelf that unfortunately was burnt in the last winter. But having these kind of exchange places where people can get rid of stuff and get some stuff. So we have this collaboration
Circular.
and create less garbage, right?
Yeah. So that would be really good for the planet. I think that would be already quite great.
That's a good amount. I think 10 was, very well done. And straight from it, like you had this.
Cool. After the show, I'm going to ask you to do the same.
Okay, perfect.
So you can leave the book there. And so now we're moving to the grand finale.
Whoa.
And it's again music. And there's something that I really love about this part of making music, with composing or producing even more, which is very related to our conversation, is that creating music and producing music mainly, it's very connected with leadership, because you need to make decisions and you have to look forward how this path will be developed, and is this good for the music? I'm doing for myself, I'm really serving the music? Like, there's all these crossroads between leadership and producing music. And that's the game we're gonna play now. So we're gonna help me produce a song from the scratch.
Lead us, Diego.
And that's gonna be the soundtrack of our episode.
Ooh, okay? Nice.
First thing when you start to do a song is to decide what is the speed of the song. So you like this, quicker. More, less?
Slightly more. That's good.
Yeah? Would you like to start with the drum, with the bass, with chords?
The heart.
Okay.
Low.
You're gonna tell me which sound you like, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like continue? Or more? Like continuous or more
No.
broke?
Syncopate.
Okay.
Yeah. We're good.
Okay, cool.
Getting there.
So, what other element would you bring now? Bass, chords?
Now what a nice voice.
You want to do a voice?
I think we need a...
So maybe I put chords first so you can
Yeah, okay,
sing.
yeah.
Oh, yeah? You want to be more melancholic, more happy?
No, happy, joyful. Major.
Very joyful.
Major,
Okay.
no minor.
Ah, okay. I love that you know have the language.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. So like this sound.
The one before last. Yes, good.
Okay. Like this?
Yes.
Or more chords?
Maybe a third one with a diminished, like
Okay.
yeah.
So
yeah, good.
like this?
Yes.
Yeah? We got it. What else would you bring now? Okay, the bass.
Ready for the party.
Okay, so the sound. Which sound? Do you like any of this sound?
This one. No, the other one. Yeah.
This one? Okay. Like this, you like
Yeah,
it?
it's great.
Okay, so before we keep going, I need you to pick up the next box.
Yo.
More unboxing.
Open the box. Don't show it what is inside. Okay, so you open the box. You're gonna choose one for yourself. And leave the rest in.
I'm gonna try this. I've got no idea.
And I'll give it to Eva.
I'll take the
please.
box.
Oh, yeah, take the box.
Thank you. I want that too.
And I have the leftover.
Okay.
Okay. Can I suggest? I know
Yeah.
how that can
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
That's like if you hold here.
Yeah. Ah, okay.
Oh.
Nice.
It's a very satisfying sound, no?
Very nice.
Okay, so are you ready to go?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. How do you do that? You always nail. Amazing.
That was
Rocking
super
it.
fun.
Boom.
Thank you,
I
Diego,
loved
for
it.
leading us for that.
Super nice.
Super super. And you should do that for companies
Well,
as groups. Yeah.
we do that. He
Yeah,
does.
illustration strategy. I love it.
So we're gonna
so
talk.
nice. We're gonna talk.
Network.
There's gonna be.
Yeah, you didn't tell me what you were
you
doing.
know your
See?
value
I didn't
proposition.
know.
I'm gonna wait for you Monday morning around just beside the coffee machine.
You should.
So
I need to do
Delphine,
this.
you are absolutely true to your reputation. You're candid and open to share. You do not shy away from a conversation and being open, and we're more than grateful for you doing exactly that. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
not
much.
only unboxing what makes this beautiful city of ours livable and open with opportunity, but also starting to really sketch and kind of place, almost as a to-do list, the vision on how we can really keep it livable and open with opportunity. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
It's been a lot of fun doing it.
Thank you very much. It was
Thank
super,
you.
super nice. Super
Thank
fun.
you.